paused the recording, and we can go ahead and get started.
Let me show you how it's
Five, four, three,
So,
two,
and this is your plat account,
This is
right?
my plat account, yeah.
attackers
All right.
incoming.
Damage systems
I'm
increased.
starting the payload.
Mission underway.
So like most of this match, I felt maybe I lost because I didn't have like that pocket mercy with me.
Hmm.
Adjusting angle of
Yep.
attack.
So in general, Echo's a very flexible character. She is one of the most flexible characters in the game, and that means that because she's flexible, she works with it or without a mercy pocket. Mercy pocket
Okay.
is not a necessity with Echo at all. Um, whereas maybe like a Pharah might almost need a mercy to even be alive. Echo can run with almost any composition with or without a mercy. Now, if you have absolutely nothing that can heal an Echo effectively, that might be a little bit tough. Like some characters that can heal her a little bit easier, like Zenyatta, Mercy, like
Ana.
Ana can a little bit. Brig is also another one because she has her packs. But if you have like a Moira Baptiste, then you might maybe want to not go Echo. Like if it really just be up to you. But that then you have a little bit of weaker healing. But Mercy is not a necessity on Echo.
Okay.
Let's get you back in the fight.
All right. So the first thing I'm noticing is when we're flying up here, we are flying very far out into the open. So the first thing that we need to do every single game is pay attention to the team compositions. But
Okay.
if we don't know what team comp they're on yet, we need to make the assumption that they have something that can kill us. Like let's say for example they had a Widowmaker.
Damage
Now
systems increased.
with that assumption that they have a Widowmaker, right here when we go up in the air,
Adjusting
okay,
angle of attack.
would you say that maybe this is a little too far on the open? This is maybe going to be a very easy shot for Widowmaker to hit, right? If we're this far flying this far out in the open, right? We want to make sure that we're a little bit closer to cover, right? Even if we're on a character
Okay.
like Echo, while we're in the air, we want to make sure that we're staying next to cover. So we can stay next to buildings, right? Buildings are a good one. So like we can be like right here.
So
That
like, would
way,
you recommend like instead of going out to the right with the team like that, coming to the left and
yes.
peeking that side?
Yep. At the very beginning, this also means that you can get damage in on them a little bit faster because you can see there's a little bit of a delay before we could actually do anything. Like the first time we're actually shooting at stuff is 15 seconds into the game, right?
Okay.
That means you're just doing stuff faster. So yeah, left side. But then on top of that you have cover, right? They can see us half a second now they can. Oh, we move it to the side in half a second now they can't see us, right?
Okay.
Whereas if we're in the open over here, right? Even if we drop straight down, there's a good second or two before we get to cover, right? Which means that it's just very easy to shoot at us. Now, that same basic principle applies on the ground. Basically, good positioning is the usage of cover. Bad positioning is the absence of cover. If we're standing, along this main road here, there's no cover anywhere. But if we're standing on the corner, now we can go like this, right? So we just want to make sure we're respecting positioning. And if they have absolutely nothing that can contest you, we can be a little bit more lenient with it, and we can go a little bit higher. So like this is okay, I think, at this distance to be out in the open because they don't have anything that can really snipe us too easily at a distance.
Okay.
Because they don't have hit scan. But in a second here, we're about to get a lot closer to them, and we do the exact same thing. And that's not really as okay because now we're within a very easy distance from the hit, right? So right here, this is okay, acceptable, because they don't have like hit scan characters. But in a moment here, we're about to go in a little bit closer, right? Like we do the same exact thing right here, right? Out in the open, just flying straight up. But now we're within a distance where it's maybe it's a little bit easier for Hanzo, Zenyatta, Ana to hit us, right?
Okay.
So we just need to make sure that we're sticking next to covers, even in the sky. Use buildings, use things we can get to. Okay. After you've finished off a target with your beam, right, and they're dead, right? We just want to cancel it. That way, we don't have to just hold on to it. So you just press the button again, and then it
Yeah,
stops it.
that's something I'm still getting a little used to.
Yeah. Because it doesn't really do any damage on someone who's full HP. So if we kill the Echo here, most of the time we're just going to want to stop it right away.
Okay.
Because now we're just doing zero. We're not doing it very much damage. We're just going to do more damage with our primary fire, and we can start recharging the ability right then too.
Boosting
and I screwed up. I went a little like that. I knew for a fact. Like I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I meant to hit the back side of it, and I hit the forward side.
Mm.
Nanobots almost ready.
Okay, I like that we're using our stickies very frequently. That's really good.
Just got rolled here.
Okay. Out in the open, right? That's the reason why, and that ends up happening, right? In the first place, is it's just a little bit out in the open where all of them can shoot at us. That's why we end up dying. On top of that, just make sure you're watching your health bar here, and we're requesting healing before we're flying up in the air, right? That way Mercy can see us, or if we can also just say like, "Hey, I'm going an Echo. Like Mercy, come with me." That way we have the advantage in the Echo 1v1, right? Because it is a good idea to try to focus the other Echo like first thing in a fight.
That's what I was. I think that's what I was trying to do most of the game.
Yeah.
Like try to get her out of the way because like I understand that she's just broken.
Yep.
Lifting off.
All right. So
Yeah, this I realized my team was dead.
yep. So that just means that while you're walking back, right, make sure that we're paying attention through walls, right? That way we can see that they're dead. We can also see it in kill feed. In general, like it seems like you're doing a good job of identifying what mistakes you're making. Um, you know, basically when it comes to improving at the game, right? You have a 3-step process, right? First off, you have identify the mistake, right? What mistakes am I making? Second is what's the solution, right? What could I be doing instead? What could I be doing better, right? And then thirdly is applying that solution, right? Is making sure we're attempting to implement that into our game. So we want to make sure that you seem like you're doing a pretty good job with the first one and identifying that. Just make sure you're looking to come up with what could I have done like instead, right? Is make sure that we're paying attention to kill feed, make sure we're paying attention to the team and through walls, so that's an awareness issue. Okay, so that we're not running in here after the whole team's dead, right?
Yeah.
Making progress.
That was stupid.
Because then that staggers us, just means that we get less damage in, we can't poke for as long.
Learning from that one.
The payload is stopped, and here I thought we had a plan.
Quite the boost.
They asked me to push the Sigma, so I push them.
Beam him.
Lock on my target.
I wasn't sure if he was that health yet.
Yeah. If you land all the stickies on him right here, you can be of the assumption that he's gonna be pretty low here.
Okay.
Below half HP. So there you can see it, right? His health bar is below
Okay.
half. So because of the fact that we hit every single sticky, you can make the assumption that he's going to be low, unless it's on a character that has like a ton of health, like a wrecking ball, right? Who has
Okay.
shields up, or maybe a roadhog or something like that, right? So we can make the assumption here and pretty much right click and pre-beam, right? We can right click him if we see everything hits, then we just beam right away.
Okay.
So here, just beam comes out a little bit delayed, and then by the time I use it, I think he doesn't get healed up, right?
No, I get thrown down, so I'm not able to get to him.
Alright, so we got to pick.
Boosting up. Adaptive circuits engaged. Orisa.
Alright. So first off here, let's take a look at the ultimates on their team. We have, I think the Orisa's pretty decent, but it's also a little hard to get her ultimate, especially when you're up against a double shield, right? It's going to be a little
Okay.
bit hard to charge that because it's a little bit slower of an ult charge. I'd probably say we want to go for Sigma here because that's a little bit of a consistent ultimate that's easier to charge. When you're going for it, position a little bit on an off angle, not staring straight at them, right, this way. So like for example, if we flew up this side and did it, and we just kind of like landed up here, for example, right?
Okay.
Now we have an angle where we can shoot around the shield and we don't have to shoot into shields. We could do the same thing with Orisa too, I guess, is just get around the shield. And then the other thing is it just doesn't put us in immediate danger. Look at how we kind of like drop right in on top of them. We want to make sure that whenever we're doing any sort of transformation, that we're not dropping in on top of them, because we have to remember we're going to be their number one focus target as soon as we transform. And on top of that, we're just in a pretty poor position, right? We're transforming like right in on top of them, and no matter what character we're on, that's usually going to result in an instant melt, right? Look how fast we just die here. So they discord us, they land all the stickies on us. We're walking in front of their shields, we're out in the open, right? Ahead of all of our tanks, and we just instantly lose the transform, right? The copy. So we want to make sure that we're being a little bit safer with our copy, that we're in safer positioning, we're getting an off angle, maybe copy Sigma there instead, and then just make sure you're not dropping right on top of them is the other big thing.
Okay.
Okay. Alright, nice. Did we fly into that grab?
No, I think I got grabbed.
Yeah, okay, no
Yeah.
we didn't, yeah. You just got grabbed here.
I just couldn't get the aim on the Echo.
Yeah, make sure that with our aim that we're attempting to lead our shots. So remember, because it's a projectile with our primary fire, right? That means that has a travel time, and therefore we need to be aiming ahead of them or just like right on top of them rather than behind them. As a few times that when we've been aiming, we've kind of been trailing them.
Okay.
So just make sure that we're doing the same exact trailing, but it's in front of them, not behind.
Do you recommend me lowering my sensitivity then? Because I'm
What is it?
I'm at 400 DPI at 7 cents.
400 DP on 7 cents. That sounds pretty average to me. As far as sensitivities go, what size mouse pad do you have? Is it pretty big?
I have a whole desk. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't bother. I don't think that
Okay.
that sounds like it needs it at all. Because that's basically what mine is. I have a 3.5 by 800. So that's literally exactly what mine is. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
All right.
Crusaders!
So we're dying quite a bit. So just focus a lot on survivability. The more you're alive, the more you're able to do. Right. Deaths are obviously a very bad thing. It's a very obvious mistake. When you're dead, you can't get value, and then on top of that, your team, it's negative value because now your team is losing the fight, right? And they're at a disadvantage. Right. So deaths are a big thing we can look to cut out to do more. So pay attention to your deaths, and then those are really easy ones that we can look at and go, okay, why did I die? Right, and then we can do the same process we were talking about earlier. Is like look at it. Why did we die here? Was I out of position? Was I too aggressive? Did I use my abilities wrong? And then we think of the problem, the solution, and then try to apply that.
Okay. Perfect.
Right? Whenever
Well,
whenever I basically whenever they're not in like in a clump or a very easy place to hit, so like for example, like if they're in a tiny little choke point or doorway, or they're all grouped up on top of each other, right? And I know
Okay.
that I know that I'm gonna hit every sticky. What I like to do is spread them out a little bit so that even if one doesn't, or even if like all of them don't hit them, at least a
Okay.
couple do. So rather than what we do here is we kind of he's not in a doorway, and there's only one person we're trying to hit, right? So here we just shoot them all in one little ball here, and so that they're all exploding in the exact same place. If we look to spread that out a bit more and kind of spread it out, then that means that we could be hitting them with a little bit of damage and at least get something out of that rather than hitting nothing.
Okay.
But you can do that if they're all grouped up, if they're in a choke, if they're in a doorway, right? Or if they're like right next to you. But besides that, just look to spread it out a little bit.
Boosting up. Lock on my target.
Okay, look to use your right clicks here, you know, in your duel. On top of that, make sure we're paying very close attention to their health before we're using our beam, because otherwise we end up just not doing max damage, and then
Oh,
she
that's
ends
like
up.
so close.
Yep, it's very close there. We just want to make sure we're paying very close attention to health bars when we're using our beam, because that really does make the difference here, and we would have been able to kill her if we had it available. On top of that, when it comes to echo duels, uh, basically, from what I found, is that yes, you want to go for the echo first, and she's also going to be looking for you first. So in duels against the enemy echo, the Echo who uses their fly first is usually going to be at a disadvantage in the duel. They're going to be more likely to lose the duel. For the reason that you lose a lot of your burst movement, and the Echo who uses a second, right, is able to basically just dash at you real quick, and you don't have a way to dodge it, right? You don't have a fast way to dodge it. Because
Okay.
if the first person, like if you, for example, you got up here and then didn't have it, and then the Echo all of a sudden just bursts at you real quick, that means that she gets the kind of surprise advantage because she's setting the pacing of the engagement, right? You're not picking when you start, she's picking when you start. If you do it second, or if you like jump straight at her out of nowhere, then you're doing it first, and that means that therefore you have the advantage, right? You can hit the right click easier, or you're actually there was just so I understand this correctly, what is your stickies bound to?
My right click.
Your right click? Okay, because I think I might have changed it a while ago, but I guess maybe it's default. I was just wondering because I forgot whether or not it was default or not.
I keep it on right click and I basically hold down right click.
Yeah.
When swapped off.
I'm on fire.
Lifting off.
All right. So yep, just a lot of deaths. Look for survivability. Well, I'll talk a little bit more on that, and if that becomes a little bit more of an obvious issue. So far, as a quick strengths and weaknesses, I think that generally it's looking like we're not terrible in any specific area, but we're also not doing the best in any area. I think that positioning is a little bit of a weaker area, and is probably one of the biggest issues, and that's resulting in a lot of deaths and a lot of problems.
Would you say like I play her as Reaper? Because like that's like
uh,
so I'm part of a
yeah.
team, and that's kind of like what they said. Like I kind of play her like Reaper almost.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're playing Reaper wrong, I wouldn't play Reaper on a front lining or in the sky, or I wouldn't play Reaper out in the open either. All the same concepts with positioning would apply to Reaper just as they do Echo. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say Reaper gameplay. More like we're just very out in the open all the time. We're very aggressive and at the wrong times, and then that results in a lot of deaths.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, it's the people who are walking in the room. All right, so
Quite the boost.
yeah. So we were saying positioning a little bit on the weaker side. I want to see more ultimates before I make a judgment on that. But the one that we did use was a little bit on the weaker side as well. General mechanics need a bit of work as well. Just make sure that we're aiming ahead of them, and we're not trailing them from behind. And then when it comes to ability usage, I think we're doing okay. So stickies, I think we're doing pretty good on. Just to make sure that you're spreading them out a little bit more on those targets like we talked about. Flight and beam, I want to see more of. Beam specifically being one that so far looks like one we need to work on, as a lot of the times we're beaming at the wrong time, a little too early, or we're not using it, and there's also sometimes where you don't cancel it right away. So beam does need work on, and I want to see a little bit more flight.
My ultimate is almost ready.
So that's what we're looking at right now. So right now we want to,
just chilling.
yeah, during this time we just want to use it to be poking, right? Like we talked about with their team composition, they don't really have too much that can contest us from a distance, right? If we just like go straight up in the sky, and start poking at them from a distance, they have absolutely nothing unless Hanzo or Zenyatta land some lucky shots that can contest us, and we also have a Mercy as well. So here we can just be looking to poke for ult charge, and we want to make sure we're just doing something rather than sitting here, so we can get our ult going and get more in.
Going free. Onward. Staring them down.
Okay, make sure we're paying attention to his health, and because he wasn't half there, and then on top of that, make sure we're not beaming after it's useless, right? Ineffective, right? Can't make sure we're getting in the habit of canceling it.
Taking off.
Yeah, it looks like mechanics is going to be a big issue. Why don't we... Alright, we're dead now.
Taking off.
So here you can see the theory I was talking about with flight.
Spreading it out.
right? Is
Oh, right.
yeah. So here we boosted the echo.
Taking off.
Actually, she's flying too. What happens here? Did she? I guess she.
I miss all my stickies on her.
Yeah. Actually, I missed that. Missed it. How do we die here? I guess she just followed us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she followed us through, and then I just died.
All right. So we're gonna look to go over some aim stuffs here. So what we're gonna go over is called crosshair placement. Are you familiar with the term?
100%.
I understand. I think I understand what crosshair placement is, but
Mm.
you know, I'll follow through. I'll just
All
listen.
right. Yeah, and it'd be a quick review as well, just to make sure you're understanding completely what you should be working on, right? Because even if you've heard the term before, that maybe doesn't mean that you knew that this is exactly what you should be working on, right? um, Now, when it comes to crosshair placement, and I apologize, just ordered a new mouse. Mine broke just yesterday, so I'm using like an office mouse right now. So if my screen's like a little bit shaky here, that's why.
Nah, you're
But
good.
in any case, right, crosshair placement is essentially placing your crosshair in the right in the best place possible to hit the easiest shots. Right. The first simple step to this is making sure you're aiming head level. If you're aiming at body level, then that means obviously body shots do a lot less damage than if you're hitting headshots, right? So half as much there. And then on top of that, right, it means that we have to adjust, a lot further to hit headshots if we're aiming lower down, right? So that means that the further we have to adjust, the harder that shot is to hit. So we want to make sure we're keeping our crosshair already at head level, so there's a lot less adjustment to go for. Right? On top of that, Echo's a pretty spammy character, right? And if we're spamming here, right, and we're walking around looking like this, right, then that means that we're hitting a ton of body shots, not many headshots. But if we're walking around aiming like this, right, and we're aiming at head level, then now we're just hitting a lot more headshots, right? So we want to make sure that we're walking around aiming at head level purposefully. And this also, I'd probably say this concept is gonna be a tiny little bit more important than the other one, is make sure that we're keeping our crosshair in the right direction, right? Not just at head level, but if we know that we're going to go on somebody on the right side here, right, that we're
Okay.
putting, or on the left side, right, we're putting our crosshair, or on the right side, that we're putting our crosshair at head level, right? Why are you doing this? All right, in whatever case they go, we're going at head level, like right around the doorway, so that as soon as they come around the corner, we're pretty much already aiming at their head, right? So that there's very little adjustment. And then as we track, I'm aiming ahead. Right, we'll do that again, just so you can see. Remember, you're aiming ahead of them. You're not you're not trailing from behind. You're making sure that you're aiming ahead because it has travel time, right? You want to make sure
Okay.
that you're not going in front of them or not, sorry, not going behind them or going right on top of them. Because if we go on top of them from a distance, right? Let's see what happens if we go on top of them from here, right? You only hit one shot, as you saw. One of the 3 shots that you shoot. So let's see. And then if he doesn't stop there, then I might not even hit it at all. So here, same thing. We know he's left side, so we're pre-aiming at head level and already looking left side, so that as we're turning this corner, we're already looking straight at his head. Right? Here, they're a little bit downward, so we're pre-aiming a little bit lower, right? Already looking right side, so we're turning this corner and already looking at their head, right? So this is crosshair placement, right? Is general, is just placing your crosshair where you know enemies are going to be to make your shots easier, right? So that means that crosshair placement is essentially just learning how to aim. It's if you get good crosshair placement, you just get good aim in general. I used to play, like, this is my first FPS game, right? I didn't play anything before this. I played maybe like some COD with friends on Xbox, but that was about it. This is my first PC FPS game. And I played Minecraft beforehand, and I started playing this game, and I placed in silver and I played Mercy, right? I didn't start playing characters that needed to aim until for like a couple seasons, right? Like at a very minimum, like 5 in.
How do you keep your aim so tight?
Tight,
Yeah, like mine's always all shaky.
shaky. Make sure that your wrist is on the table. If you're when you're aiming, when you have to do fast movements, you want to lift your wrist up so that you can move fast. But when I'm going for shots that are really far away, I'm letting my wrist rest on the table so that any movements I'm making are now wrist aiming rather than arm aiming. Right? This is arm aiming. This is wrist aiming. Right? There's a lot.
Okay.
It's a lot more subtle and a lot more. Basically, it's tightening and like you said, it's basically as if I lowered my sensitivity, and it's gonna make it a
Yeah.
little bit more accurate at ranges, right? So whenever you're trying to shoot something that's far away, or you're trying to shoot something like in a direction you're trying to go for, right? That's where I'm putting my hand down on the table, and or the desk, right? But then if I'm trying to do like wide flicks and I'm just like turning around, right? That's where I swap to arm aiming, and I'm using my entire arm to look around, right? So whenever you're arm aiming, you're essentially alternating between the two of them. Does that kind of make sense, or answer your question, or
That answers it. Because I'm still trying to get used to the whole like arm thing and all that.
yeah?
Because I still
Combat routines.
I never had a computer growing up, so like I still like type with 2 fingers.
Yeah, I mean I do
If
too,
that's
basically.
funny to you. So like mouse and keyboard is like really new to me.
Yeah.
So like I still like try to like learn how to do like the movements with the arm versus like having to like kind of just like micro move.
Yep. And they're both useful in different instances, right? You have to kind of learn when to use what.
Lock on my target.
Right, but yeah, that's gonna help you quite. What the heck are we there? That's gonna help you quite a bit when it comes to just making sure we're hitting shots, because it's like I said, I basically learned how to aim through the usage of crosshair placement, and crosshair placement is just understanding how the basics and fundamentals of how aim works. Right. Again, make sure we're poking during this time. They don't like if they had a Widowmaker, maybe that'd be a little bit different. No, don't poke if they have like a Widow who could one tap us here, or if they have like people right up on that high ground right there. Maybe be a little more hesitant. But when we have 0 things that can contest us, and we're in the middle of this fight here, we just want to be poking so that we can do stuff. Oh, is this the exact same spot that we were before? I thought this was.
We were talking about it
All
a
right.
little bit ahead.
I thought.
And then we died to the echo. Yep.
All right. I thought that's my bad. I thought that was 2 different instances.
No, you're good.
All right. I think we get res here.
Yeah.
Focus my target. Adaptive circuits engaged. Genji.
All right, very nice fly.
Abilities increased.
I just lost track of her. I couldn't find her. And by the time I did, it was just like over. Yep.
System reboot.
Basically, when you're trying to kill her, make sure that you're like just dashing straight at her, right? You first off locate her, right? Find where she's at. It's gonna be best if she doesn't know where you're at, right? If you can find where she's at and hide where you're at, then that's gonna be really good because it gives her less time to react to you, right? And you can get the surprise advantage. Second thing is we're basically gonna use our fly to just boost straight. Oh, excuse me, boost straight into her, right? Just get right on top of her. When you're right on top of somebody, it's very difficult to miss your stickies, right? It's very difficult to miss your right clicks, right? If we're like right here on the monkey, right? That's not real hard, easy to miss, right? It's probably even harder to miss than it is easy, right? So, if we're right here on somebody, it's going to be a lot easier to hit than if we're back here, right? So boost straight up at her, and if it's a surprise advantage, then you get those stickies off first, and she's panicking, and then you can follow that up with a few shots or a beam to finish her off, right? That's basically what your combo to finish her off is going to look like.
Damage system
Now,
increased.
we have died quite a bit throughout these fights. Why deaths are something you want to work on, right? One death, right, is 10 seconds of respawn time, 10 seconds of walk back time. That means that every death is 20 seconds, roughly. The walk back time is going to be a little bit different, and the respawn time is going to differ with overtime and stuff like that. But roughly 20 seconds per death. Now, so far, I don't know if I had to put a number on it. I'd maybe say we have like 1, 2,
it's 8 or 9
like
deaths.
6. Yeah, there's some. Yeah, well, wow, that's even more than I was thinking. But that's a ton, right? So let's just throw a number out there, right? It might not be accurate, but let's just throw a number out there and say, let's say that we have 10 deaths per game, right? If we, on average, right, if we can cut out 3 deaths, then that means that now we have saved an entire minute of gameplay not just existing, which existing alone would mean that you're getting more charge, more damage, and more kills, but it's existing in fights, right? Because every time you're dying in these fights that now means that your team's at a disadvantage and you're losing. So now we're in the game participating in fights for an extra full minute, and we get more value that way, right? Now let's take that one step further. Let's say that we cut out an additional 3. So now we've gone from 10 deaths to 4 deaths, right? Now that means we've gotten an additional 2 entire minutes of gameplay, right? In that time, we could have 1 or 2 ultimates. We could have gotten so much more damage and kills in, right? Think of how many kills you can get in an entire 2 minutes, right? And that's, again, 2 minutes of participation in team fights, right? So deaths are very, very big, major problems and mistakes that you make. And if we can look to improve that, then we're going to be doing a lot better. So every time we're dying, and every time, this is the way you can look to self-improve, is every time you die, take a look at that death and go, why did I die, right? And that's how you can look to self-improve, and that's what we're going to be doing here, is every time we die, we're going to look at them and go, why? Most of them so far have been poor positioning, very far out in the open, or just a little too aggressive. Right, now we are looking for ultimate, see what we do with it.
We called that I was gonna swap to the Winston.
Yep,
I know that's what we called because they wanted to give me nano.
Is this a comp game or?
No, right? This was literally the comp game right before I got on with you.
Yeah. Alright, which that's pretty understandable. Winston's probably the best character you could swap here besides maybe Orisa.
And then they took forever. They took forever. They're like, well, we're gonna go right, and then we're gonna go left. So I was like, all right, well, I guess we're going left. And then I saw the McCree. Yeah. So the Echo, I got scared.
Yep, this is fine. There's no reason to poke right now since you already have your ultimate. So this is good. Make sure we can maybe use. Go ahead.
I was looking right here. I was looking for the Winston when we came out that window, and I couldn't find them. And then the Ana said, "Use your ultimate." So I took. I forget who I took.
Yeah. So
I went to go take the Orisa, and I didn't get a chance to. And then I went out to the McCree.
Yeah, I think what I was about to say is that we should probably be looking to use this time to locate the Winston rather than just AFKing here. Like, for example, like what would happen if we just peeked here for half a second, right? I guess Echo could dash at us, right? That's an thing that could happen. But I mean, we could also go up here, right, and do the same thing. We have our ultimate if we need to bail ourselves out, right? And we could. Okay. So we just want to make sure we're trying to locate him. On top of that, whenever you're trying to locate somebody, here we just keep our crosshair in this one direction, right? When we're trying to find somebody, make sure you're just kind of flailing around, and you'll find them, right? If we're just looking, there's only so many places he could be. He could be top left. He could be on point. He could be top right, right? Basically, right? Unless he's like for some reason in one of these like bottom rooms. So just make sure we're scanning all the most probable places for him to be. On top of that, just look around, right? If you've lost somebody, like this is something I tell like Genji players when they're blading or something like that. Like if you can't find someone, like just do 360s, right? You'll be able to get like if we're right here on the monkey, like we'll be able to glance him at some point, right? And then that glance means that we can kind of focus in and narrow in on him. So here we can't, we're not scouting, we don't know where he's at, and then we come out and we can't find him. Maybe rather than dropping immediately and going for flight, we should have maybe looked around just a slight bit more. Right, and then if you're about to die here, just copy, right? Copy can save your life, keep you alive, and then that means that you don't lose this fight. Now we're at a very significant disadvantage, like we talked about. Being dead is a disadvantage, and we've died almost first almost every single fight so far, right? So we want to make sure we're really trying to stay alive and stick with upper survivability, because here we just get way too aggressive, way out of position, super far out in the open, right? No cover anywhere, and probably should be looking for ultimate there as well.
will.
Alright, so we get a res off.
Thanks for the second. Adaptive circuits engage.
Do the same thing you said before.
Whenever we're copying, it's a good idea to just like boost straight up in the air, right? That way we can copy, and while we're in the air, we have a little bit of visibility of what's happening. It's not like McCree's going to be able to shred us as we're falling through the sky super easily. While we're a Orisa. On top of that, it gives us a little bit of the ability to, we can land on high ground here. We could land wherever we want. It gives us a little bit of an ability to move around while we're falling from the sky. And then on top of that, this just gets us around shields, and it means that we're not falling straight into their faces like we were talking about last time, just not getting aggressive. But here I think this is all right.
Cease your resistance.
Okay, good job using that instantly. When we use this though, make sure we should probably plop that around the corner. So
Thanks for the second chance.
right here,
Adaptive circuits engage.
Should have probably backed up.
yeah, probably backed up. Look at the fact that they have a transcendence going, right? We want to make sure we're paying attention to trans. We don't. It looks like we're tunnel visioning in on the Orisa. So we're trying to duel her when she has a transcendence, which isn't maybe a smart thing to do. Back up. That way we can put Bongo into maybe a safer place, right? Because now this is behind 2 shields rather than in front of 2 shields, right? And we're also backing up because they have a transcendence, right? So I think here we're just not aware of the fact that they have trans. We shouldn't be trying to run at her when we know that they have trans. And then again, that aggression gets us killed. So I think in our ultimates, we need to play a little bit more passive. You have 15 seconds on them, so don't feel like you need to get instant value. That was a problem that I found in myself a lot when I first started playing Echo, was that like I would ult and then immediately go and die because I was like, value, right? Because most other characters you have to do that. Like,
Yeah, it's like if you don't get value, you're just like, you're useless.
Yep. Think of like McCree, Reaper, Pharah, Genji, right? They all have like 6-second time limits. On Echo, it's 15 seconds, right? That's like more than triple. That's triple the time, right? That most other DPS have. So really, just keep in mind you have a lot of time to work with. Don't feel like you have to go so aggressive that you're going to die as a result. So far, both of these ultimates have just been way too aggressive, and then that meant that we just got melted out of them very fast, and we didn't get enough value out of them. Okay, good beam kill. In general, I haven't seen too many beam kills. On Echo, most of your kills come from your abilities, right? And with your beam kills, you're probably getting about like half of your kills in total out of your beam. It's a very effective way to kill off people. So like essentially, how like the kind of the combo or rotation that you're looking to use with your abilities is right click to open up, shoot when and in between everything, right? Before you right click, while you're right clicking, after you're right clicking, until they're half. When they're half, you beam, right? And then we just wait for our abilities to come back and we do the same thing, right? And we just do that rotation over and over and over again. Right click first, shoot in between, beam whenever they're half, right? And then that's how we get a really effective rotation going. I think that's like kind of the general sense of what we've been doing, but I haven't really seen us. I think first off, we're lacking in the mechanics department, so like we're not really getting many people low ourselves. But on top of that, I don't know if we've been actively searching out for low HP people either. And beam can be a pretty effective way to kill people, right? Like Echo here is half. The Moira here is half, right? There's a ton of people that are going to be half, even from like your team doing damage to them. So we want to make sure that we're being aware of them. And it seems like in almost every fight we've almost tunnel visioned on one particular person. So in the awareness department, make sure we're paying attention to what's happening around us, because that's how we're going to be able to kill things that are low HP very easily, rather than trying to go for one single thing each time.
Okay.
All right.
And that was the end of that.
Now,
Then
did
I
you
play
swap off
Reaper.
here? Yeah, right.
Yeah, I play Reaper, and I don't need help with Reaper.
Alrighty. So did you have another game you wanted to go over?
I do. It's a loss. I wouldn't say it was a roll loss. But it definitely was a little bit harder. But I think I played average to a little bit better than what you just saw.
All right.
So it's going to be PB. 57 YF.
Alrighty.
Welcome to Blizzard World.
I'm pretty sure I played Echo this entire time.
And
It's
are you
Spurts.
spurts? All right.
Yep. It was supposed to be Spirits, and I forgot the I.
5, 4,
It's pretty funny. Have you used your free name change?
No, not yet. My,
No.
my team thinks it's more funny this way,
Attackers incoming.
so I just deal with it.
Defend objective
Alright.
A. Focus on the objective. Minimize errors. Adapt to changing battlefield conditions. And good luck.
Look for some right-click spams here. On top of that, no, never mind. Nothing real else to say.
Adjusting angle of attack.
I forgot to fly like stopped, so I got worried.
There, we got a little bit aggressive out of our fly. They didn't really focus us too much, though. We just ended up in some really aggressive positioning, and we don't get punished for it here, but that could have very easily gotten punished. When we also fly up, we kind of, again, fly up straight in the up in the air. If the Echo's looking at us, if anybody's looking at us, they are able to kill us a lot easier. They have a soldier. Or actually, that was I think that was an Echo before, right?
Yeah,
They
that
have
was
a-
the Echo before.
they have a
They
Hanzo.
swapped.
Yeah, they swapped. Yep, they have a Hanzo who can shoot at us. They have a Bap who can shoot at us. They have an Ana who can shoot at us, and we're flying out in the open. We just want to make sure that we're, for example, right over here, right? This is now much better positioning because we're just using the building, right? So look to use the building. On top of that, we just kind of we flew up and got the kill, and then we dropped like inside of them. Rather than doing this, you might want to fly up, get the kill, and just like glide back to your team. You don't need to go super aggressive off of that kill. And I think here had this been a better team, we might have just been rolled if we did that by some of their players. Make sure paying very close attention to their health bars here, because I do not believe Zarya's half here. Yeah, let's see. All right, like here she's like 1 off of half. And then she's also going to get healed up in a second, and she's behind the shield. So we just need to be aware what's happening, what's going on. Cancel it when it's not getting value anymore. So as soon as they're not half, then we're canceling it. Alright, target priority. As any character, what are the characters that you want to focus?
So I normally go after like the main tank, the shield, and probably the healers first.
Most of the time, tanks are not what you want to shoot at, right? You want to go for supports or DPS because tanks have 2 to 3 times the health of other characters. They have, like you just said, they have shields, they have defensive abilities, and that makes them very, very difficult to kill. On top of that, it's much easier, for example, on the enemy team here, they have a BAP and an Ana. It's much easier for them to heal a Reinhardt than it is for them to heal themselves because they have less abilities to heal themselves with, right? They only have BAP has shift, Ana has nade, and that's it. That's the only thing they can use to heal themselves. Right? Sorry, voice crack. That's the only thing they can use to heal themselves. On top of that, they just have a lot less HP. On top of all of that, right? Tanks, though they are very crucial characters and they have a lot of carrying potential, they don't have statistical output. DPS do damage, supports do healing. Tanks' jobs is to prop up support and create space for the supports and DPS. And therefore, we want to get rid of the characters that have the statistical output first, because those are the characters that do the most when it comes to, like we talked about, damage and healing. So in general, we want to make sure we're focusing those characters first, not tanks. Now, that's not to say that you should never shoot at a tank. When there's nothing else to shoot at, right, we shoot at tanks. When tanks are low, we shoot at tanks. When tanks are out of position, we shoot at tanks. But when anytime you have equal opportunity to either shoot at a DPS or a tank, or anytime you have the option to seek out something else, we want to make sure that we're seeking out something else that's not a tank. Now, DPS are pretty decent targets to go for, but if they're being pocketed by supports, same thing, just go for the support first, because you're not going to be able to kill DPS super easily if they're getting pocketed. Here, like, notice we could pick to go on anybody here. We could go on Bap, we can go on Ryan, we can go on Hanzo, we can go on Soldier, we can go on Zarya. We have access to everybody every player on the field right now, but the one player we pick out is the person who we're least likely to be able to kill, right? Even now, we were able to kill the Soldier and the Reinhardt. They're both at equal distance to us, yet the Soldier is the one who's almost half HP and has, 3 times less health than the Reinhardt, right? That's let's count out the health, right? It's the Reinhardt with where are they, right? Soldier with 120 versus Reinhardt with 400, right? Big difference. And he also has the shield, right? You're gonna be able to kill the Soldier much easier here. So we want to make sure we're focusing them and actively seeking out those targets as well, right? So we go on when we're flying, we want to fly super high up in the air to get around shields, right? This means that we're getting an angle to where we can see over shields. We want to come in from side angles, right? Come in from an angle that's not with our main team, so that we call it an off angle, so that we can get around shields again, right? And get around tanks, so that we can get to the supports right away and get to the DPS right away. So we just want to change up our target priority a little bit. Even on a character like Reaper, myth busted, right? Beside, a lot of low rank players think that he's a tank buster, which he does bust tanks, but that's not even who we should be focusing down.
No, he should be in that backline already.
Exactly, right? So just make sure we're focusing on the right targets here and not just on the tanks the whole time. Keep in mind he has a shield there, right?
Cancel, yeah.
Very out in the open, right? Standing, just plopping ourselves on point, right? Better positioning, maybe like over here, and we could run away. We're also dying when we have Fly, right? Fly is an ability that you can use to get away and negate damage, or not negate damage, but you can look to fly out of danger, right? But here we don't use that. That just means that we end up dying, right? So another death that's, messing with us. Now we're gonna move on to the review real quick. So why don't we? I want to try to find where we're about to use our ultimate, so we can talk about ult again. All right, so we haven't used our ult yet. Okay, I like that we use the beam to focus on shield though. That's a pretty good move a lot of the time, because you can melt down shields pretty fast using that. Okay, copy Ryan, I like it. On their team, they have a Chung. Okay, yeah, so Reinhardt's going to be pretty much no, that's our team, right? Sorry. Their team, yeah, Ryan's probably going to be the best thing to copy there, so that's really good. Okay, very nice. Sometimes you have to predict when we're gonna get a kill. Like if you see that you're right on top of the Baptiste, right, and you know that you see that your crosshair is right on his head, and we know that we're about to headshot him and kill him, we don't. That means that
want to use the bomb. Okay.
Yeah, we don't want to use the stickies, because then the stickies are just a wasted ability, right? And that's happened a couple times, like where we've gotten a kill and then wasted beam, or we've gotten a kill and then wasted stickies or something like that, right? We just want to make sure that we're almost you don't want to get to the point where you just now are losing fights because you're not using your abilities, but we need to just make sure we're being careful and paying attention to sometimes you can make that prediction of, yeah, this guy's dead, right? Not all the time, so just be very careful with that, but in that instance that was a mistake just because we reacted a little bit slowly.
Lifting off.
Little far up in the open, probably could have gotten either the Soldier or the Zarya had we been paying attention to health bars and we weren't flying so high, because we could. Soldier here is very low. Zarya is also half HP, so had we not flown so high, we probably could have beamed one of them down. Alright, so now we are we're coming up on the end of the session, so what we're going to do is a quick recap of all the things we talked about, as well as main points you're probably going to want to look to work on. So, let's see, Echo. Okay, we're just going to go around the clock here with all of our different aspects of our kit. Abilities. Okay, right click I think is pretty decent, though I do think just on the mechanical end, like I like that we're using it very frequently, but we just need to work on the mechanical end of understanding how it works. Right, when you're using it, you're tracking because you're shooting them all individually. You're not just staring at the person once, right? Because then you hit one shot and then the rest go past them. Right. Instead, we want to make sure that we are tracking their whole body so that we're hitting all of them. So we're going with the character. Again, this is a projectile, so we're gonna have to aim a little bit ahead, same as our left clicks here. So if we're trying to shoot at someone all the way over there, right, and we're aiming straight at their head here, I'll do my best to aim straight at their head. Right, look at where that goes, right?
Yeah.
Even if we're aiming straight at them, this is doing nothing just because of how far away they are. So we want to make sure that we're aiming ahead of them, right? Same with our right clicks. So we're gonna wait till it goes, right? So we're aiming ahead of them, so we're hitting them, right? Ahead of them, so we're hitting them, with both of them. Okay, just make sure you keep practicing them. You can practice them in, there's a new FFA map, so you can go. FFA is a really good place to practice your mechanics. Make sure you warm up before you have competitive games. Don't just hop straight into comp. That way you can practice it, because your mechanics are the fastest thing that gets rusty, right? You want to make sure you just get them back up to speed every single day so that you're working with the best. Beam. Make sure you're canceling it if you've killed the person, or if the person is now already full HP, or if the opportunity vanished, right? And then make sure as well that you're paying very close attention to when people are full HP or not. Not just making sure you're like, sometimes we're going for people when they're not full HP, right? Sometimes we're going for people when they still have a sliver left. Snap! I keep shooting them too high. We're going for people basically when they still have when they're above half health. So make sure we're paying attention to that. But then on top of that, make sure we're also paying attention to when people are low health as well, right? Because that's just as big of a problem, if not bigger. Is that sometimes people will be low health and we just don't notice because of a lack of awareness, and therefore we don't get the easy kills that we could have had, right? Because Beam is a very, very powerful ability, and we can shred people if we're paying attention to half health. So pay attention to other people, because your team is also participating in the game, and they can get people to half HP as well, right? With your fly, I think in general with an enemy echo, just make sure you're flying second. In general, make sure that we're not flying straight up in the air here, but we're doing this and out in the open, but we're using cover, and we're flying next to objects in the sky and using buildings and such, right? So that way we can block damage.
Let me ask you something. If there's no like building coverage, right?
Mhm.
Which I'm pretty sure there's probably building coverage in every single spot in Overwatch, but like
there are some open areas,
yeah, like what do I do then?
Don't fly so high. Fly low to the use it more rather than a ability to just get verticality, right? Use it horizontally, so you're using it kind of like as a tracer blink almost. So you're using it just to burst away or burst towards people, and we can use it just as faster travel speed. But most of the time you're gonna have buildings to work with, but just don't fly out in the open if you're just gonna get shredded while you're there, right? Make sure you're respecting cover more on high ground and on low ground. Now, besides that, with your fly, just in general, you're looking to fly up real high. You can get angles around shields, and that way you can shoot the right targets. Now, moving on, and in general, across all those, I don't think they're all terrible. They just need to look to be more consistent.
Okay.
Ultimate usage is a bigger problem for us, as out of the three that the two that I saw, the third one was pretty decent. I think we had pretty good targets with them. Though just give yourself time to find people you're looking to use, scout them ahead of time, make sure that you are not getting too aggressive and you're not jumping straight in their face, but you're looking to be a little bit more passive. You have 15 seconds to work with, so you don't have to go right away. When you're ulting, you can do a quick burst up in the air where you're just going like this, and then you just go tracer, right? That way you can get a little bit of height, and you have stuff to work with. You have a lot of visibility over everything that's happening. Now, moving on from there, that one does need a bit of work, and we want to look to get consistent with it. Positioning, let's go on to that one. Make sure just positioning in general. Bad positioning is the absence of cover. Good positioning is the usage of cover. Applies to ground, applies to in the air. Make sure we're respecting that.
Taking off.
Make sure we're not getting too aggressive and out in the open, because that resulted in a ton of deaths. Is just because we would like get way too far forwards, way too far out in the open, and then they just punish us and kill us, right? So be very, very careful with your positioning, because it's resulting in a ton of deaths, and deaths is something we really want to work on. Is survivability. Probably the number one thing is that we just died a ton. Now moving on to awareness. Awareness, I think, is just another one that needs to get consistent. Pay attention to whether or not you're winning or losing fights by watching kill feed, right? Watch kill feed to see whether or not you're winning or losing. We'll look when you're walking back from spawn. You can see your teammates through walls, so pay attention to that. On top of that, just pay attention. It looks like one of the bigger things we struggle with is just making sure we're paying attention to like just the team fight and people around us. So like, what's our team doing? What's the enemy team doing? I think we do have a decent awareness of our kit and when we have abilities. We have awareness of our ultimates, of our health. So that's all good. Ultimates, another good thing we did with our ults was that we did use them as soon as we got them. So that's really nice. You don't want to hold on to ults, so that's really good. Now, I think that is it. Oh, and then mechanics, make sure we're tracking ahead of time, and then we're using crosshair placement, right?
Perfect.
Now, main points, probably say number one is going to be positioning / survivability, as that's resulted in a ton of deaths, right? And that just means that we're not really alive to do things, right? And then positioning also affects your ability to do things. Then second, I'd probably say is mechanics. We're struggling a lot mechanically. It just means we're missing a lot of stickies, a lot of just primary fires and beams, right? So that's going to get us a lot more kills if we're focusing on mechanic. Make sure, and then, sorry, number three, let's see, what was going to be number three? Probably say ultimate usage comes in, yeah, ultimate usage comes in at number three. Then after that comes ability usage and then awareness. Honestly, I don't think that awareness was too major of a problem. It's just happened sometimes, or just a little bit inconsistent. Now, in general, also remember target priority. And then finally, just make sure that you're really looking to focus in on certain areas, right? Just take it 1 to 3 at a time. Don't go over, we talked about like a ton of things, right? Like 20, 30 different things. So don't go over everything at once. You're going to get overwhelmed. Focus on 1 to 3 of them. Don't autopilot while you play. Look to improve, and then that's how you're going to get better at the game. All right.
Perfect.
Any questions on anything we've gone over?
No.
All right. So let me end the recording here then.